to by answering the questions about why Americans have difficulty saying body part names. And I think it just comes from a culture of shame. It comes from people having religious stigma and being uneducated, and just it's kind of a product of the education process that we've been experiencing, especially over the last 30 years, in just being comfortable with our bodies and being comfortable with talking about things and having a voice and not being quieted by just people in power thinking that they can't have people talking about their natural bodies and things like that. And I think that kind of relates to how the first article on telling people what body parts are and the NPR story, which was about sexual assault. I think if you can't tell a teensy tiny baby that they have a penis or a vagina just as easily as you say eyes, ears, mouth, and nose, and all of the songs we sing. And I'm not suggesting that we start singing about our penises in preschool, but if we can't teach our kids that it's okay to talk about every single body part that we have and every single body function that we have, and instead have shame about it, then how can we expect our teenagers and our young adults to understand what sexuality is if we continue that shame and stigma of not talking about body parts onto not talking about sex education? We need to talk about sex education. And I love what Malik Washington said in the NPR piece. He said that he doesn't know how logical it is to believe that men who don't respect themselves physically, sexually, and emotionally are going to respect those same things in others. And I think that there's been so much great things going on with women and them being able to understand who they are and that they have value, that I think sometimes that the men get lost in that. And, men have grown up thinking that they need to have a man card and they need to be men. And if they're not going out and being sexually active by a certain age, then they're not men, and their sexuality gets questioned, instead of saying to them, you have control over yourself and you're doing a good thing. And if you can't tell somebody it's okay to be vulnerable and it's okay to be authentic and it's okay to say, I don't feel like dating yet, I don't feel like having sex yet. And if they just have to figure out how to do it on their own and they don't have a trusted caregiver to share that experience with them and mentor them, then I don't think that we're going to be able to progress as well as we need to. And then the last question is, what can society do to change this? Well, I think society is changing. Our textbook, when it's talking about hymens, it talks about how women used to be shamed and damaged because they didn't have a hymen and they didn't bleed on their wedding night. And there's so much stigma and there's so much cultural unawareness. And I understand that purity is an important thing, and back then they didn't have the same technologies as we have. But if a woman can't say, yes, I'm pure, or no, I'm not pure, and be willing to stand up and say that, then it's going to be really difficult. And one of the similarities in the first article in the NPR was just talking about shame, like the preschool mom who said, my daughter knows the word penis, now she's ruined, and I don't know what to do about it. And then in the NPR story, they're saying that parents are giving their duties of teaching their children to institutions, and young people don't know what the consequences are. So if we can't get over religious stigma and sexual taboo and just understanding what our natural body processes are, then we're going to continue to have a culture of young pregnancies and sexual assault and sexual harassment. And that is not just male on female, that's female on male and male on male and everything that goes along with that. Because we need to just be able to talk about, things, whether it's sexual things or financial things or whatever it is, to learn how to be a baby, a child, a teenager, and an adult, then we're not going to change. So those are my thoughts. Thanks for listening.